Everyone procrastinates, some more than others. We also differ in the ways that we procrastinate. I'm an active procrastinator, for example. When I procrastinate, I work hard, usually expending enormous amounts of energy, immersing myself in anything but the thing I should be focusing on. My go-to procrastination, any of you who've read my books will know this, as I'm writing or when I should be writing, my procrastination activity is gardening, and more specifically cutting the lawns, which I love to do. I find it very therapeutic, but it equally could be a less pleasant task like weeding, hedge cutting, trimming, etc. You name it. If it's outside and in the garden and requires no real brain investment, I'm on it. What kind of procrastinator are you? Are you a pleasure-seeking procrastinator? Like, do you go for the immediate gratification that watching a movie or surfing the net or scrolling on social media or shopping online? Or do you procrastinate productively, doing low priority tasks that seem productive but are really somewhat irrelevant, like tidying an already tidy space, reorganizing files or apps on your laptop or phone, or sorting emails, rearranging your desktop, your furniture, your bedroom, alphabetizing your record collections, basically anything to distract you from what you should be doing today. Do you start a task and then procrastinate by allowing yourself to be pulled away by diversions such as snacking, getting a drink, daydreaming, calling or messaging friends or family? Or does your procrastination focus on personal appearance or personal comfort? Like, when you procrastinate, do you do something like apply lotions or potions or face masks, or maybe you engage in hobbies? Do you avoid or delay unpleasant tasks by replacing them with other tasks that you find pleasant or at least less unpleasant, like cleaning, paying bills, gardening? But for about 1 in 5 people, procrastination is chronic. Those affected consistently delay tasks to the extent that it is a defining characteristic of their personality, impacting on all parts of their lives. College students as a group are absolutely notorious procrastinators. When it comes to completing assignments, between 80 and 95% of students procrastinate on their coursework. Interestingly, research also shows that about 78% of workers will procrastinate even though it makes them anxious. Why? Why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we put off tasks we know are important, even though delaying them makes us worse off? Procrastination is my sin. It brings me naught but sorrow. I know that I should stop it. In fact, I will. Tomorrow. Welcome back to Super Brain, the podcast for everyone with a brain. I'm Dr. Sabina Brennan, and to kick off season 6, I am diving into procrastination, the irrational, often torturous habit of putting off until tomorrow what we really should do today. Everybody procrastinates occasionally. Okay, so let's start with some context. Procrastination is the gap between what we intend to do and what we actually do. It's not laziness. I want to be really clear about that. It is not laziness. It's the voluntary postponement of something we know is in our best interests to do. The Latin root is revealing. Pro meaning forward, and crastinatus or crastinatus, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. I should have looked it up before I started recording, but I didn't. That's just me. Anyway, crastinatus or crastinatus means till tomorrow. But as the old saying goes, tomorrow never comes. So the word procrastination reflects an ancient concept found in many cultures from both Eastern and Western traditions that emphasizes that we should act in the present rather than procrastinate. Back in the day, philosopher Aristotle called it akrasia, an ancient Greek word which literally translates to lack of command over oneself. Aristotle used it to describe a weakness of will when we act against our better judgment. Socrates, the founder of Western philosophy, just couldn't get his head around the idea that people would knowingly avoid doing something that was in their best interest to do. He wondered how it was even possible to choose to do anything other than the best action. Gosh, it beggars belief then what kind of person he was if he always did exactly what he was supposed to do. Anyway, here we are, thousands of years later, still asking, why do we sabotage ourselves? So the ancient Greeks cottoned on to this human tendency to put things off long before Netflix gave us on-demand gratification in the form of bingeable box sets to which we can procrastinate. But actually, speaking of Netflix, there's a really interesting study on Netflix viewing that illustrates the tomorrow never comes phenomenon beautifully. When asked to pick a film to watch today and one to watch on a later date, people chose comedies or blockbusters for today and a serious or worthy film for a later date. But when the later date arrives and they are again asked to pick a film for today and one for later, no prizes for guessing that when the long run becomes the short run, they choose the popcorn comedy or the holiday blockbuster for today and leave the worthy, serious stuff for later. So let's take a little look at the neuroscience. What is going on in the brain when we procrastinate? Some philosophers describe it as a battle between inner selves. The short-term self wants donuts, scrolling, Netflix, or gardening in my case. The long-term self wants to finish the essay, fit into that wedding outfit, file the tax return, and in my case, finish that book or that chapter even. Nobel Prize winner Thomas Schelling even suggested these are like divided selves bargaining with one another over short-term gratification or long-term gains. Neuroscience frames it as a tug of war between different brain systems. The limbic system and the brainstem push for immediate gratification and for mood repair, for feeling good in the moment. While the neocortex, which was the last part of our brain to evolve, supports rational, long-term, goal-directed action. Both are really powerful, and which one wins out depends on a complex mix of context, personality, your past experience, and even your current emotional state in the moment. Two key theories help explain procrastination. One is called emotion regulation theory and the second temporal motivation theory. So emotional regulation theory says we procrastinate to protect our mood. If a task feels aversive, boring, ambiguous, or induces anxiety, we avoid it and we do something that feels good now. Like me cutting the lawns instead of tackling a tricky chapter I'm writing, or a student watching Netflix or scrolling Instagram instead of completing the assignment that is due the next day. The temporal motivation theory explains why we suddenly become productive as deadlines loom. The closer the deadline, the greater the perceived importance, and motivation actually spikes. That's why students cram the night before an exam and why I finally get my manuscript finished and meet the publisher's deadline despite my procrastination. Research also shows that self-control, the ability to resist temptation and stick to long-term goals, is a limited resource. It gets depleted with use, which means even the most disciplined among us will procrastinate under the right conditions. So, how can we outsmart procrastination? Well, let me break it down into 3 tools for your super brain kit. Tool number 1, shrink the task. Big, vague goals breed avoidance. I have to write a book. Oh my God. That is just so soul destroying. So break them into concrete bite-sized steps. Instead of write the book or even write a chapter, try today I'm going to draft 200 words or 500 words or whatever is feasible for you. For me, sometimes it's as little as 200 words, I can tell you, depending on how hard or challenging the concept is that I'm trying to explain. But tiny wins build momentum and can really be motivating. So you get your 200 words done, you feeling positive about yourself and motivated to write some more. Second tip I have for you is the future you hack. So this really just involves your future self benefiting from the action that you take now. So, handing in the assignment on time and enjoying the relief of having it done, or being able to party guilt-free because you submitted that assignment on time, or feeling confident at the wedding. So visualizing the future benefits can help bridge the gap between the short-term self and the long-term self, who are engaged in this tug of war. Your third tip is deadline magic. Harness that temporal motivation by creating artificial deadlines. I do this sometimes, actually. So make commitments to others, set reminders, or introduce accountability. Deadlines don't just create pressure, they actually generate momentum. And then, of course, if you meet a deadline, there's that little dopamine release, that reward. There you have it. Procrastination is very human. It is completely irrational, it's frustrating, and it's fascinating, offering us a window into how our brain bargains, constantly weighing short-term relief against long-term reward. Personally, I know the pull of a perfect lawn too well, but I also know that when my goals feel meaningful, when I can see my future self reaping the rewards, procrastination loses its grip. Somewhat. That's why in my book, The Neuroscience of Manifesting, I write about the importance of making your goals personal and vivid and meaningful to you. When we care about the outcome, when we can picture ourselves achieving it, we are less likely to push it into the endless tomorrows. Next time you feel yourself slipping into delay, ask, am I serving my future self or just fixing my mood in the moment? Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time on Super Brain, where we will be exploring the magical world of mushrooms. Take care.